Welcome to the Workplace Wellbeing Essential Series. I'm Mari Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of Advancing Wellness. It is my pleasure to welcome you today to this expert interview, where we explore topics that impact employee well-being. My guest today is Danny Hadas. Danny is a best-selling business author, an employee experience innovator, and advisor to the world's most iconic brands on the topic of people. Before age 30, Danny was leading $10 million experience transformation projects, and his work has impacted millions of people across 500 plus companies worldwide, including Disney, BMW, and AT&T. As the founder of the Emovation project, Danny shares the transformative power of intentionally crafting experiences through the context of emotions. When he's not jet-setting around inspiring new Emovators, Danny can usually be found in Orlando, Florida, where he lives with his incredible partner. Together, they participate in and lead growth and development programs aimed to cause tremendous breakthroughs in people's lives. Their partnership serves to redefine what's possible for the world. Danny, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Fabulous. Today, we're going to explore the topic of employee experience. This is such a hot topic today, and in my opinion, it's certainly justifiably so. Employers today are recognizing the importance of creating a positive and fulfilling workplace for their people so that employees will be happy, productive, and engaged. All essential aspects in order to succeed in business. So let's start the conversation, Danny, if we can, by defining employee experience. Some of our audience may not be familiar with that term.
Sure. So, and thanks for the question. So the employee experience, as I see it, is really the way people feel about their overall participation at work. When I say participation, I'm really synonymous with the experience they have. I'm not going to define employee experience with the word experience. And when you think about, when I think about the employee experience at the Emovation project, the way we define the employee experience is in four stages. The first being the explore phase. That's where people will go on a company's website. That's where they'll apply for a job. That's where they have interviews. And ultimately that phase ends when either interest is terminated or a job is extended, an offer is extended. So that's the first phase of the employee experience. That's explore. But then an employee will start the process of getting familiar with the company once they've been hired. So that's going to be onboarding, orientation, their first 90 days, whatever you might look at it that way. But it's really them getting familiar. What's my job? What's my role? Who are my peers? Who are my colleagues? Who's my manager? What's the role really going to be like? What are the policies and procedures? That's the familiarized stage. You move from there into operate. This is where they actually perform their daily role each and every day. They might participate in growth and development, what it might be like that. And then lastly, anytime after that, they start to evaluate. Is this the right role for me? Is this company right for me? Is this the right manager for me? Is there something different that I should be pursuing inside this company or outside? And that cycle repeats over and over and over. And if you think about your experience working and people listening think about their experience working, you'll see that it always follows those four steps. Exploring an opportunity, getting familiar with that new role or that new job, operating in that role, and then evaluating whether or not it's still right for you. And then it goes over and over and over.
I like that.
That's
a nice structure. I like the way you think about that. I'm just curious, Danny, how is it that you came to start a company that's based on employee experience?
That is a great question. So I've been consulting with the world's biggest brands since 2008. And most recently, the last 5 years, been exclusively focused on customer experience. And so there I was leading this $10 million transformation project for one of the world's most prestigious automotive brands in the world. And we're co-creating these inspiring customer experiences. The energy in the room is electric. People are buzzing about. And then someone stops and says, "Hey, I'm not doing this." And I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "I'm not doing this." I said, "Well, what's going on?" He said, "Look, this is really great and all, but my management doesn't treat me half as well as they're asking me to treat these customers. So I'm not doing this. And I have a feeling that other people won't do it either because they're going to feel the way I do."
Wow.
Yeah. And right there it clicked. Companies, there's been a customer experience craze, but you won't get the experience that they won't get the experience you want delivered to your customers unless you're caring for your employees first. And that's when the vision for the Emovation project was born. And that's when I decided that that's what I would be doing with my life.
Well, that's fabulous. I love that story. And it's so interesting because, we see this all the time, is that we're asking employees to give their customers, a really valuable and impressionable experience
Mm-hmm.
as the customer, but yet the employees are getting beaten up and are in toxic workplaces or being
Sure.
abused or disabused or whatever they may be doing. So it's really, we can't expect, and I know, as we both know, the whole employee experience really has come out of this world of customer experience and the,
Mm-hmm.
customer experience journeys and all of those kinds of things.
Sure. That's the latest incarnation of caring for the employee. Certainly is born out of, customer experience. And if you
Right.
look, the topic of employee morale, employee satisfaction, you can find work dating back to the 1920s on that. But yeah,
Right.
definitely employee experience is this new incarnation of how to deal with your employees. And absolutely, I agree. It comes from the most recent craze for customer experience.
Right. So based on your experience with some of these large projects and the clients that you're working with now, is there an approach that you suggest in the workplace that addresses employee experience and how to make that a positive element for employees?
Absolutely. And that's what the whole company, the Emovation project, is founded on, a four-step methodology that I call Emovation, which is innovation powered by emotions.
Hmm.
And so the core of that methodology is just asking, answering, acting on two questions. How do you want your employees to feel emotionally? And what actions will you take to have them feel that way? And if you really look, if I go back to what happened at this automotive brand, the employee shared, I don't feel cared for. I don't feel supported. Therefore, I'm not going to deliver the performance my manager or my leadership team wants. Well, what would happen if the employee did feel cared for and supported and recognized and valued? Well, the conversation would probably shift to, oh my goodness, all I want to do is give everything I can to our mission, our vision, because I'm getting what I want in return. And so those questions, how do I want my people to feel? What will I do to have them feel that way? They create a context by which leadership teams and companies can actually deal with and manage their people, as opposed to just, throwing spaghetti on the wall, getting ping pong tables, catering lunches, and having happy hours. You can actually say, all right, I want my people to feel valued. Great. What will I do to have them feel valued? Or I want them to feel inspired. What will I do to have them feel inspired? I want them to be acknowledged. What will I do to have them feel acknowledged? And so on and so forth. But those emotions create this very rich context from which you can come from to create all the actions you would take to manage and be with your people, to inspire them to perform in a way that you would want for your business. So that's the methodology in a nutshell, but it really comes in 4 steps, which is the first, what's the situation in the workplace? If you don't know where you've been, and Maya Angelou said this a long time ago, if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. So what's the pulse of the organization today? How are people feeling today and why? Once you have that, you say, all right, people are feeling this way. Now here's how I want them to feel. That establishes your foundation, which is the second step. Foundation. How do I want them to feel? Once you know how you want them to feel, you include everybody to generate all the ideas you can create to have them feel that way. That's step number 3, generation. And once you've got all your ideas that have been created with that very rich context based on the emotions you intend, it's time to activate those ideas and move forward. So that's activation. We've got situation, how do people feel? Foundation, how do I want them to feel? Generation, what are all the ideas I can create to have them feel that way? And activation, who are the teams, people, resources, tools I need to put in place to set my plan in motion? Those are the 4 steps.
I love it. I love the logic. Well, it certainly to me feels very logical. So I think it would be easy for people to grasp. So really, really appreciate that.
Sure. My pleasure to share.
Yeah. So I'm curious from your perspective and the work that you've been doing, how do you see that employee experience impacts employee well-being?
It's a great question. And it's such a pertinent question. When people aren't feeling supported or inspired or connected to their colleagues or their leadership, and they're not feeling empowered, well, from my experience, stress levels spike.
Yeah.
And when stress levels spike, people's lives can really take a turn for the worse. I've had my own personal experience with this, that culminated in 2 different hospital visits, one where I thought I was having a heart attack. I did not feel supported.
No.
I did not feel cared for. And ultimately, I didn't feel valued. And so I'm not the only person who's experienced this. All across the country, you hear people dealing with stress, unprecedented stress levels, and feeling they're stuck in a role where they just feel like they've got to put out product. They've got to put out results day in and day out for 80 hours a week. And so employee experience and having people feel a certain way is going to have a tremendous impact on their well-being. And the stronger the experience, I would expect that the healthier the people and the organizational culture are. And so to me, it's a one-to-one direct correlation. Yeah. The stronger the experience, it's more likely that those leaders are taking into account the health and well-being of their people. At the end of the day, if you're not feeling up to the task of getting your work done, what kind of performance are you going to be providing? Right. And if people don't care about your well-being, that is to say they're not having you feel cared for, they're not having you feel respected and valued, what kind of product can you expect from your people?
Yeah, it does seem like such a natural connection that if people aren't happy, they're not going to be productive, they're going to be disengaged, they're going to leave. It seems like it's just such a natural connection.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Think about all the things we take home from work with us. Right. Conversations we've had with people, whether they've been arguments or recognition or anything like that. But in just that example, if I've spent all day arguing with my boss or my manager or my colleagues, how is that going to impact my ability to perform outside the workplace, in my relationships, with my spouse, with my friends, with my family? I might be irritated. I might be agitated. Whereas in a workplace where I feel supported and I'm able to be my full self and bring my full self to that environment, and I'm feeling respected and cared for and appreciated and supported, well, when I leave the workplace, I can actually put that aside and share it with people in a positive manner, and it has an influence on everything I'll do after work. And so, the employee experience I see has an effect on every aspect of someone's life, really, and it can manifest itself in physical ailments, like I personally experienced with my what seemed to be some sort of heart attack or heart episode, and I've had a phantom foot injury that I could talk about. But I think there's a one-to-one relationship and a direct correlation for sure.
Yeah, the last thing we really would expect that would happen in the workplace is people go home so depleted that they can't be functional for their families.
Right. And
it's just not right.
Yeah. It's just not right. How many people do go home feeling so frustrated at work, right, that they can't even focus on what's going on at home? Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What can employers do to improve employee experience?
Well, I think the number one place to start really is to get a handle on the situation in the workplace. How are people feeling today? You've got all these measures out there, engagement, ENPS, and whatnot. And they're all great, except they always require additional investigation. You get an ENPS score, or, you get an engagement score, and you're going to have to do additional digging to see what's behind those scores. So the first thing is if you don't already know the situation in your workplace, that's where to start. Then you can start with simply just asking people, having 30-minute meetings with everyone, every 30 days, finding out what's your experience like here. What's your most favorite thing about working here? What's your least favorite thing about working here? What do you really care about in your role? What kind of support do you wish you had? Those kinds of questions will really give people the ability to understand what kinds of things they can pursue to improve the workplace for the better. I mean, I always say the number one thing you can do is get a handle on the situation in the workplace. If you don't know how people are feeling, how can you know how to move?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, your approach is very similar to what we do with strategy engagements with our clients. Is we go in and the biggest piece of the work is the data collection of both qualitative and quantitative data to understand and basically create a snapshot of what the environment in the workplace looks like today, so that we can then help them map where they need to make changes to get there in the future.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. That's great. Well, Danny, if our audience wants to learn more about you and that great work that you're doing, where can they find you?
Yeah, so especially if you're looking to get started with the situation, I would highly recommend you go to emovationproject.com/brilliant, and you will be able to download a free resource that tells you all the different ways you can assess the situation in your workplace. And I actually give you the questions we use with a shipping client, a freight client, and which they had 100% participation. And from that survey, those questions, they generated 92 employee experience initiatives just from those questions alone. So go to emovation.com/brilliant to download that free resource. That's what I would recommend for sure.
Wow, that's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that additional resource. That's really helpful. It's really been a pleasure chatting with you today about this important topic. And I'm very excited to hear more about the progress you're making with your clients and the great work you're doing. Thanks, Danny.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Mara. I appreciate being here.